I am going to cover the top spots to search for tracking devices on any vehicle. Now, contrary to popular belief, you do not have to be a spy to have someone spying on you. I often get calls where the client thinks someone is following them, and they often say things like this: I don't know why they're following me. There's nothing special about me. I don't have anything to hide. We first need to understand who puts these tracking devices on vehicles and why they do it. Let's just jump to the big white elephant in the room first. Do private investigators use tracking devices to follow their subjects? The simple answer to this question is yes. Sometimes PIs use tracking devices when doing surveillance. But the real answer is yes and no, and it all depends. This question has been highly debated in the past and will be in the future, I'm sure. You see, some states allow PIs to use tracking devices like GPS trackers, and many states do not allow the use of these devices, and some states have no laws whatsoever that speak directly to the question of whether a private investigator can use a GPS tracker or other tracking device. So the PI needs to know the laws as they relate to this topic in their own state, needs to understand the nuances of the laws, and needs to understand the risks involved, even if the law permits them to use tracking devices. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Now, I have other videos on the topic of legality of PIs using tracking devices, so make sure you check those out after this video. I think it is safe to say, though, that there are many reasons people might have someone tracking them right now. We see trackers being used by ex-spouses and ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends. We see trackers being used by insurance investigators, fraud investigators, and criminal investigators, too. We also see tracking devices used by used car dealerships, debt collectors, and the creepy stalker type guy down the street. The reality, though, is that these type of trackers are oftentimes easier to find than most people think. Knowing who might want to track you helps you understand where to look first. But did you know there is one hidden spot inside your car that most people completely miss during a search? We will get to that exact location here in just a moment. Now let us look at the top hiding spots you need to check for when looking for a tracking device on your vehicle. One of the biggest spots to hide a GPS tracker is inside the rear bumper of your vehicle. The front bumper needs to be checked too, but for most vehicles, the rear bumper is much more accessible. The rear bumper is usually made of plastic or fiberglass on modern vehicles today, while older vehicles, they may have been made out of metal. This is a great place to hide these tracking devices because plastic doesn't block the signals that the trackers use to transmit your location back to the mothership or wherever they're sending this data to. Someone can very easily just casually walk past your car, then slide the tracking device up inside the bumper in just a few seconds. Usually, they will use some type of adhesive too, like double-sided tape, to ensure it stays in place and it isn't rattling around. When it comes to the front bumper, it's a bit harder to use because many front bumpers on vehicles today do not have a lip or access to put something up in there. A lot of front bumpers are fully covered in a protective plastic shield, which also makes them look more aesthetically appealing and helps with aerodynamics. But if they can get something installed there, it is often a preferred area because people rarely look in their bumpers. So you need to make sure you check both bumpers thoroughly if you want to be completely safe. Another common place to put a tracking device is underneath the side skirts or the rocker panels or anywhere on the undercarriage of the vehicle. Many tracking devices come with very strong magnets attached to their outer cases. Or, as I mentioned earlier, they may use double-sided tape or other things to attach the tracking device to the car. All they really have to do is simply reach under the side of your car and slap that tracker up underneath there, hidden inside the magnetic box, or using that double-sided tape onto the metal frame, and they are good to go. Regardless of where they hid the tracking device, it is safe to say that most can be deployed within seconds, but they are not as easy to find, to be sure. You have to also know what you are looking for too, and we'll discuss that here in a moment. A very common spot we see tracking devices being deployed is inside the wheel wells of your vehicle. Every wheel well has a plastic liner that protects the metal body from the rocks and the mud. It is very easy, especially on older cars, to reach behind this loose plastic liner and attach a device with a magnet to the metal frame behind it. But many times they may just use that double-sided tape, clean off a spot right up on the plastic wheel well, and then stick the tracking device to it. Another favorite area is in the dashboard area inside the vehicle, and this includes the OBD2 diagnostic port. You will need to get down on your knees and take a good look up under your dash and look for anything unusual. The OBD2 port is right up there under the steering wheel column or sometimes off to the side, and it's fairly easy to find once you know what you're looking for. Tracking devices like these are becoming more and more prevalent and preferred because the device is powered off of the vehicle's battery. So they are off when the car is off, so an RF detector is not going to see it transmitting any signals. And we will discuss the use of RF detectors here in a moment as well, so hang on. Now, the most common spot we see people hiding tracking devices in is inside the trunk or the rear cargo area up under the spare tire. Now, it could be hidden anywhere in the trunk or the cargo area, so you need to check it all completely. But people rarely look under their spare tire unless they have a flat tire. So this is a great place to look, especially if the person who placed it may have had a few minutes with the vehicle. While you're looking there, you need to lift up the carpet and look in every panel to see if they dropped a small device like right next to the vehicle jack and tools. Now let's discuss what a real tracking device looks and feels like so you can recognize it. A real tracking device is usually a small object. It can be round, it could be rectangular or square in shape, and it is often made of dark plastic. I have seen tracking devices that are the size of a deck of cards, as big as a small tissue box, or even as small as a quarter. Generally, if it's meant for the outside of the car, it will oftentimes be inside a waterproof magnetic box, but not necessarily. When you feel around your car, you are looking for anything that does not feel like factory metal or smooth plastic. If you touch a box and it wiggles or detaches easily, you may have likely found a tracker. You just want to make sure you check anything and everything out closely using a flashlight to ensure you do not remove a vital part of your vehicle. If you are not sure, then have a qualified mechanic check it out for you. To do a full vehicle sweep correctly, you will need a good flashlight, a couple of mirrors, a small one and a medium-sized one, and some mechanic's gloves. A large piece of cardboard or an old blanket is good too to use while you're laying down on the ground to inspect everything underneath the vehicle. A mechanic's creeper might work, but with most vehicles today, there isn't much room up under there to use them effectively. The mirrors I have handles on them, and the mirror angle is adjustable. This works best to help you look everywhere possible. Start at the front of the vehicle and look inside the grille of the vehicle using your flashlight. While this is not as likely of a place to hide something because it can fall easily, you still need to look in every nook and cranny you find. Next, move to the front wheel wells and turn the steering wheel all the way to one side so you can get a good look in there. This gives you space to look behind the wheel wells and inspect that plastic liner for any signs of tampering. Now, you're probably wondering if there are any electronic tools that you could use to help you out while you're doing that, and I'm going to discuss some of those here in a moment as well. After the front wheel well has been checked, do the same for the rear wheel wells. Now, you won't be able to turn the steering wheel to help you see the rear. Now it's time to get dirty. It's time to get on your back on the ground. I always check from the front to the rear and then back to the front, going in a clockwise motion. So I check the front bumper and under the engine, then I go to the passenger side of the vehicle, checking everything, giving everything a good once over, then moving to the rear bumper, then to the driver's side undercarriage. When it comes to inspecting the interior of the vehicle, I do the same. I start at the driver's side and then move clockwise through the vehicle. The first place I check is up under the dash, looking to see if there's anything hidden up there or in the OBD2 diagnostic port. The OBD port should not have anything plugged into it. If you're not sure where it is on your vehicle, just do a quick Google search for OBD2 port and your vehicle's year, make, and model. OBD2, the 2 is 2 eyes. Just remember this. If you see anything that looks suspicious but you're not sure what it is, have a qualified mechanic check it out for you. I have seen it many times where a client thought something was suspicious, but they didn't really know what they were looking at or what they were doing, and they ended up ripping out electronics and or wiring that was part of the vehicle. After I check up under the dash, it's time to check the door storage compartments, the center storage compartments, under the floor mat, and under the seat. You need to look close up under the seats, as many times a magnetic or a taped object may be placed up on the underside of the seat. A big place is under the floor mats. We find things like tile trackers and Apple AirTags there a lot. They are small, thin, and easy to deploy there or under a seat. Then I move to the front passenger side, then the rear passenger side, then the trunk or the rear area of the vehicle, and finally the rear driver's side, and I just rinse and repeat, looking everywhere. You also need to take a good look up under the hood of the vehicle too. Check your fuse blocks. Are there any wires that are tapped? Under the hood is not as likely of a place to find a hidden tracking device, but it can happen. The engine compartment gets pretty hot, so plastic things may melt. As well, it's not easy to hide things there, and there's a good chance that it will become inoperable due to the heat and the fact that the device would be well shielded from sending signals. Now let's discuss using RF bug detectors really quick. Can these help you find a tracking device? The simple answer is yes. But then there are caveats to simple answers. First off, remember what those devices are. They are RF, radio frequency detectors. They are looking for radio frequencies, and not all RF detectors are created equal. In a moment, I will tell you what I would recommend as a personal space bug detector that will help find GPS trackers too, so hang on. Using an RF detector in a vehicle is tricky. The vehicle is transmitting all kinds of signals. These signals could be from computer controls, backup cameras, tire air pressure sensors, built-in Bluetooth radio, OnStar GPS systems, and more. So do not be surprised if you get lots of intermittent signals while using an RF detector on a vehicle. There is a way to use them and a way to not use them, and there's one thing that most RF detectors never do. Most do not have any way to find those tracking devices that are attached by a magnet. You see, a lot of the trackers we see today transmit data sporadically on timed intervals, like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, to save on battery life and to help them go undetected. But if they are attached by a magnet, well, there is one RF detector that I recommend that comes with a magnet detector built in, and I made this video right here that goes into detail on how to use it to find a GPS tracker, so check it out now.